You are watching Omnis Protocol, straight from Adepticon. I'm here with Ashley, Texas legend, fair to say. How is Adepticon going for you so far, Ashley?
I'm loving it. This is my first Adepticon.
First Adepticon?
Yeah. I'm coming with a couple of my friends, all from Texas, and we have a couple of people from the Shatterpoint community, specifically the Austin Shatterpoint community.
Yes.
One of which was my doubles partner today, Tom, and also some Kill Team people as well. Like, we had a lot of different people that are coming for a lot of different reasons.
I will apologize. I did not remember which part of Texas between like Dallas, Houston, Austin, right? Like Texas is practically its own goddamn country.
There's a lot of Texas.
Yes.
There's a lot of Texas.
But I would like credit that I remembered Texas for Ashley.
Yeah.
But like, I was so happy to see you here, right? Because we met at LVO. You were my favorite list of LVO, and like Sin and I were just talking about you and like hoping to see you at events and such. And so what made you decide that this Adepticon was worth the trip? This was going to be your first Adepticon?
I think over the course of the past year, I realized I wanted to try to like get really into Shatterpoint.
Yeah.
I have a local league that I'm in that I run at like a local game store called Wonko's in Austin, North Austin, like near Cedar Park. But a lot of the people that I like played with were from all over Austin. Austin's a big city, so we'd have to drive all over the place to go and like play with each other. And so driving up to Dallas for like LSO wasn't that big of a deal.
For sure.
And I mean, I'm already going to Dallas. Let's try to go to LVO, and people at LVO are all talking about Adepticon.
Yeah.
And of course, the Washington one.
Yes. And I'm so excited about that because you told me I'm a little sad that we like didn't end up like having this conversation on cast first because we were just like bullshitting yesterday, and you're like, by the way, see you at Evergreen Open, and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So Evergreen is at Dragon Con, which is a small like mostly like RPG board game con that's like in my neck of the woods. I now literally like my office is like right next door to it now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I could like bring terrain like. I'm in the same parking lot basically, but you're gonna go. So what made you decide that like Evergreen was gonna be like a GT that you would make time for?
I mean, you pitched it really well at LVO, and
past Omnis did good job, and so current, future Omnis, present Omnis is like
so good.
Yeah.
You did so good that like months in advance, I have committed to going to Evergreen, and I am very, very happy for it.
The main like TO that's above me, Izzy, is here playing Legion, and so I saw him. He's the one who like coordinates because there's all three GTs for like all three AMG games. So super cool. Are you coming up by yourself, or did you convince anyone from the Austin community to tag along?
I haven't even talked to anybody about it yet. This is a lot of the people from my local friend group.
Yes.
This is their first like not just Adepticon, but travel GT. Nobody's ever been to like LVO.
Yeah.
LSO. None of them went to LSO either. So this is sort of like, let's see if I really enjoy going out to tournaments, or is it going to be a really, really try-hard affair? And if you have that question, I'd really recommend doing something like the doubles tournament we just did, because it was so different from the singles. It was so more casual, and it was such a fun time. We were like really just shooting the shit a lot of the time while we were playing.
And I think there is something special about doing the team up or team events where it's not. I think we all have a degree of ego and we all have a degree of self-consciousness. And I think doing anything that's part of a multiplayer thing, it takes a little bit of that off your shoulders, and you're like, wait a second, I could just enjoy this.
Oh yeah.
And so it can definitely break that ice. So obviously I'd be excited if anybody's coming from the community, but let's get back to Adepticon, because this is not about, promoting like all the other stuff, but I am very excited that you're going to go, because one of the things that happened was the GT for Arizona got moved to the same weekend.
Really?
So I'm losing the Arizona guys that traveled up for it.
The one that was like on the schedule from last year?
Yes.
That was such a weird situation too, because like I literally called them because they initially had a typo on the website. I'm just like, do you guys have like a GT in like a week? And they're just like, I hope not, because we haven't prepared for it.
Yes.
And apparently they accidentally put it in 2025. It was supposed to be 2026, so That's unfortunate, but I'm glad that there's some people still coming because like Evergreen sounds so cool. I've always wanted to go.
It's just a few people. I love the Arizona guys. And so I mean, I love all parts of the community. Arizona just has this like weird like combination of just like so many cool people all packed into like one Phoenix area, and it's insane. I don't know how they did it. Probably cloning. But so you made the trip to Adepticon. What about Adepticon are you most looking forward to? Because obviously you're going to do Worlds. Is it the big competition, or is there something else that you're doing? Any painting classes? Like
the sort of like impetus for me trying competitive Shatterpoint was me wanting to kind of stand out in certain ways, and I think that's like why Shatterpoint is so expressive. If you're playing Kill Team, you have a very set list, so you can't really make a lot of choices with it. But because Shatterpoint is so modular, it really makes you feel kind of like special from a list building perspective when you try something like Padme back in like August of last year, when you try something like Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum in a teams tournament that like swaps between Empire and Rebel for like the Lando flex off the side. Like when you do something like that, it makes you feel really good. And because, especially in like the duos, but because Shatterpoint is so like robust in its like list building, if you manage to make it succeed, it feels so good. Especially when you're playing against people who are doing the exact same thing, which there's so many of them over there.
Okay, that is really interesting that you say that. So I want to preface this with a question. Is Shatterpoint your first minis game, or what did you do before Shatterpoint?
Not only is it my first mini game, I didn't know it was a mini game when I first bought it. I accidentally...
What did you think it was?
I got catfished by Shatterpoint.
Okay.
I love Star Wars.
Who doesn't?
More than some family members of mine.
Yeah. They don't matter, but sure. Yeah.
Well, then what's important is Star Wars does matter.
Yes.
And specifically like the Clone Wars and stuff was one of my favorite eras. So when I saw a massive box with such pretty miniatures, I immediately bought it from Wonko's. I took it home and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be awesome. And I realized in horror that I was staring at like a sea of plastic sprues, and I had to commit to it. So I learned how to paint with Shatterpoint. I learned how to build minis with Shatterpoint. I learned how to play tabletop miniatures games with Shatterpoint. Shatterpoint was my first everything, which is kind of why I have such an attachment to it.
That makes total sense. I don't know if you had listened to the particular episode of Momentous Struggle, but I just want you to know that Aubrey had the same thing happen. Yeah? Aubrey got home with the core set and was like, Todd, why didn't you tell me that I have, like, also had the catfish feeling of, oh my God, I did not know what I was getting into.
I totally empathize with that, Aubrey, because, like, it was that moment of shock horror, and then inner strength as I resolved
I will overcome this.
I will overcome this.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so the reason why I was asking that preface question is I often, when I'm like talking with other wargamers and such, I often describe Shatterpoint as like, if I were to pick a weakness, I would say that the list building is not as interesting as many games. So I find it really interesting that, like, for a player where this is their first minis game, that they get super into this kind of list building. And maybe for me, it's a reality check that I'm just used to different things. And so that's really interesting that for people coming into the minis community, that the list building is actually really interesting for you. And so I love hearing that, because that was one of the things that I thought was, I don't want to say weakness, but like at least not a strength. But for you, it sounds like you're like, no, I'm like, it's clicking for me and you're loving it. And so that's really cool to hear.
No, it's honestly one of my favorite things, because like when Tom and I, when we were like sitting there and we were like deciding to do the doubles tournament, we had that conversation where, because Shatterpoint comes in a lot of squad boxes, the like initial like thing, you see a squad box and you can run that squad box 95% of the time just as it is, and that's a massive strength of Shatterpoint. But when you start to really get into it and start to toy with like various parts of the toy box, you realize how well certain ones slot into certain things, and sometimes they don't slot in super well. But even then, it's a fun process of experimentation and saying, but if I can make it work, it'll be really funny.
I love that. I love that so much. All right, I want to talk Clone Wars for just a second. Also love Clone Wars. I know Padme is your girl.
She is my girl.
I will say my favorite character in all of Star Wars, and old Omnis, when I first started watching stuff, from this era, Ahsoka was not my favorite.
I'm prepared to judge you for what you're about to say.
But now, current Omnis, Ahsoka is my favorite character in all of Star Wars. You got Padme as, I think, your favorite, and so I'm hoping Ahsoka's number 2, or like where does it line up?
Are you talking about favorite as far as like Shatterpoint units, or favorite as far as characters?
Star Wars. Not Shatterpoint specifically, just in all of Star Wars.
Okay, if I'm not allowed to pick the High Republic books that have been coming out recently,
okay,
which Avar Kriss, Vernestra Rwoh, those are my favorites.
Love it.
Barriss Offee is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. She is such a fantastic look at the anti-war radical and like what it does to a person.
The Barriss Offee Ahsoka episode where she's basically put on trial for terrorism and murder. That was actually
their broken friendship results in some of the biggest things in the entirety of Star Wars is such this beautiful moments to me.
That could be its own season.
It literally can be, and I was really hoping for Ahsoka to touch on that, but at least Tales from the animated show, no spoilers, may have dealt with the Barriss situation following the fall of the Jedi. It's
a little
really good.
bit.
A little bit.
I did not like the Tales of the Jedi Barriss Offee stuff as much as I liked her arc in Clone Wars.
I agree.
All right, so then who is your favorite character in Star Wars?
Vernestra Rwoh is a character from the High Republic that is the youngest Jedi Knight in generations, and the very first thing that happens as soon as she's knighted is the master of one of her traveling companions dies, and she has to take his Padawan under wraps because he's falling to the dark side, and she decides she's going to look after this kid.
Yeah.
Vernestra Rwoh, 15-year-old Mary Allen. Mary Allens are the best species in Star Wars. Changed my mind.
Yeah.
But Vernestra Rwoh is fantastic as far as book characters go. But Barriss Offee, close second.
All right, that's fair. I will admit, I don't think I had given Barriss Offee quite enough credit and how good her arc is, because I don't think it got nearly as much time as Ahsoka, but I think it's excellent for some of the same reasons that Ahsoka is excellent, where you have basically a child who's thrust into a war for power.
Yeah.
And has to grow up in this war and how they respond to it. And this conversation has just made me go, I need more Barriss Offee.
Yeah, and what does war do to somebody?
Yeah.
When you're Barriss and your master is off doing whatever, and you're left to just ruminate on the pain that you've seen throughout the galaxy, you've inflicted across the galaxy, and you take it to heart, and the only way that you can affect change is by destroying the war machine that you are a part of. It's such a fantastic,
I gotta credit you with that one. I was ready to argue, and I think you might have put me on my place a little bit.
No, Barriss it's so unseen and it's so behind the curtain. But if you really think about the arc of Barriss, it's so cool.
It mirrors a lot of the things that I love. Why Ahsoka is my favorite character in Star Wars. There's a lot of that echoes in Barriss's story, which just doesn't feel as fleshed out.
Yeah.
Right. But as much as we're talking about Barriss and Ahsoka, I want to give you a chance to talk about Padme in Shatterpoint, because I know she has been your girl. You have been championing her in tournaments. What drew you to the Padme box, and why has it been your go-to?
Okay, when the Shatterpoint was just coming out, she was the first Galactic Republic character who was a primary that was not a Jedi.
Yep.
And I wanted to kind of be a unicorn and see if I can make her work. And I made her work so well that people in my local friend group told me, you can't play her anymore.
Damn.
Otherwise, we're not going to play with you.
Yeah.
And so I've harnessed that energy. But in reality, she's so interesting. Personal opinion, she needs a slight buff, or at least her box does. But leaving that aside for a second. The fact that she has an aura that can affect people when they're wounded if they're supporting units in Galactic Republic, very clever, very sneaky, but more importantly, her out-of-action aura for giving supporting units a +1 die buff doesn't have to happen on a combat action. So if you have, 7 Scorch, I wonder if they're meta, they have their action.
I wonder.
Their 5 dice attacks become 6 dice attacks when they're around. And if you have their expertise trees or their damage trees, 1 extra dice can be a game changer.
100%. So one of the Republic lists that I've been playing a lot lately, not Padme. I do like Padme quite a lot. I don't think she gets enough credit. But I've been playing like Ahsoka Hunter with Ahsoka, with Pawn 7 Scorch, Hunter, Shakti, Arfs. And I was kind of wondering, like, in that situation, you swap Ahsoka for Padme. Have you tried anything kind of along those lines, like other things under Padme that you think like really help her shine?
Not yet. I've been locked into the boss list because the shooty list needs a lot of shooty, and boss has such great out-of-turn activation.
Yes,
that
definitely.
It's really hard to justify a non-boss list at the moment. And it also takes a lot of the brain power out of it. But that list could work. Shakti is very, very strong.
Yeah.
Hunter is a pain in the fucking dick.
Yes.
And, like, I can totally see that working out really well.
My first ever Padme game was Padme Hunter, where I was like, what if, like, everything just moves everything before we got into the super killy meta? And I was like, this list has legs. I love being able to just move everything all the time and get things onto points. And so I like Padme a lot. Have you tried Padme specifically with things in her squad outside of her box? Or have you been all pure Padme box all the time?
Sabe is one of the strongest secondaries in the game in my personal opinion.
No, I agree with you. Like, well, I forget what her, it's not supporting fire. What is her ability called?
It's just a coordinated fire, like a dash or
coordinated fire dash.
The cover buff
yes.
For the aura, very, very strong. I love how many dice she rolls. She's extremely consistent because of how many dice she rolls. And she's so movement heavy that she can just like pop up behind an obstacle and pop back down, so you can't shoot her, but she keeps popping up and hitting you.
When I first saw Sabe, I thought this might be the secondary for Republic, like when she was first spoiled. So I've always been a Sabe fan, and I feel like she definitely has space. So I agree with you. No dispute. I think her abilities are insane.
Yeah, and the handmaidens are obviously the weakest part of the box. They're the single weakest, aside from maybe Phil's clones. I haven't done the math. They're a really, really weak supporting unit, and I think they might need a buff.
Okay, if we're going to talk Phil's clones for a moment, I do think Phil's clones as a Republic Vader Jedi Hunter support is a niche where I actually like them. So I find niche in there where I'm like getting supporting fire heal for Vader and other Republic stuff who are utilizing so basically Vader is really like take 1 damage for 3 dice. Yeah. I do like Phil's clones there.
Especially with a multi-unit melee support unit that's going to attack multiple times. Like,
they
that
also
can really need that.
They have good expertise and good tree for Vader dice as well. So I do like Phil's clones there. Specifically, I'm not sure I like them anywhere else.
I believe that.
Yeah.
But the handmaidens, I think they deserve a little bit of a buff.
Agreed.
I need to review my list before tomorrow. But they do have some things that are pretty cool. But for the most part, the fact that they're coordinated fire only triggers on like a handmaiden keyword and only with like Padme, it's kind of weak. It should be Galactic Republic. So that they're like,
that might even be all they need, right? Like, or maybe a little bit of like just quality of life. Yeah. But if that was Galactic Republic, I think that would go a long ways. So I'm definitely with you that I hope they take up just a notch. I do want to ask you, before we end up wrapping the episode, do you have general advice for someone who's thinking about doing conventions and they have kind of a pet box, like a first love box that they want to champion? Do you have advice for that person who's like, I could just play what everyone considers the best stuff, but I love this box. This box has my favorite characters. It's what I'm most practiced in. Do you have a message for that person?
Play it and don't feel bad about it, because at the very, very
fucking just hits. Like that's
basically
no dancing, no beating around the bush. You're just like, no,
because
let's talk
about that. Because if you have like a box that you're really, really practiced with, at the very worst, you're giving everybody you're up against an interesting game for a character that they don't really see very often. Heck, you might even catch somebody off guard with some weird tech that you know from your character, like Kit Fisto. I was playing against Amber, and like she has some like Kit Fisto tech that's like crazy. She's like really good with Kit Fisto. But like all these characters that you don't see very often, they're interesting. It makes for a fun story. And if you happen to lose your first game or two, you're lower in the bracket, you may have like stronger matchups against other characters you wouldn't see very often.
Yep.
Or just play a doubles event where it's more casual and like you can maybe play around with it a little bit more against people who are also just out there to try to have fun and not really grind out for the solos.
No, I feel you there. I think as a long-time war gamer and miniatures gamer, I have a opinion that I've stated many times on the show that is, when it comes down to high-level competition, the deciding factor is often who knows their opponent's list better.
Yeah.
And when you are really practiced with something that other people are not playing against regularly, that's a distinct advantage.
And it's not even like about trying to catch somebody out with something. Like, you'll obviously warn them ahead of time if you're like playing in good faith.
Yeah.
But they're not taking it into account when they're doing their like really high level decisions that factor in like where a shove would take you, or like where a dash is, or being off the point in one specific circumstance. There's so many like little wrinkles to Shatterpoint that those things are interesting when they crop up, and it's just fun for everybody to have new characters.
Shatterpoint is literally a game of millimeters in so many instances, and we have so many subtle decisions about where we put characters, and I think any time that you just don't know your opponent's list that well, you are just bound to not play as well. And I think when you think about it and you just say the basic words, you're like, yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. But that often doesn't lead people to just playing the thing that they love and have practiced the most. So I have a lot of respect for you championing, your favorite list, and I'm really excited to see how you go. And I'll be honest, I want to record one of your games if I get a chance in Worlds.
Okay. Okay. If I'm doing well, maybe.
Yes. Well, I mean, when aren't you doing well?
What a fun episode of Omnis.
Yeah. I did feel bad that I recorded your episode. I was like, she finally loses a game when I record?
Dude, I ate shit hard that game, and I absolutely deserved it. Yeah. But at the same time, that was the one list that I think Padme does like really bad into. It's like really defensive, like Obi-Wan Mace Windu aura stuff.
Yes, that is absolutely a tough matchup for that list. But nothing but respect, Ashley. I love seeing you at conventions. I love seeing how well you do at conventions, and I'm rooting for you in Worlds 100%. So
appreciate it, man.
Any final words before we close out?
Go to a con and do it with friends because it's fun.
Absolutely. Later, nerds.